when I die and I have to account for my life, I'm going to be able to say I took care of his creation.
Hmm.
And I walked out of that room, and 6 months later, I was a forum leader.
Welcome to Landmark Difference Makers, where we interview people making a remarkable difference around the world. Get ready to be inspired. Let's jump in.
Hello, everyone. My name is Seamus Ford, and I want to welcome you to Landmark Difference Makers. Today, we're going to be interviewing Barry Terry. Barry is a retired Landmark Forum leader who spent decades empowering people to live lives of possibility. Now facing a profound challenge, a diagnosis with stage 3 pancreatic cancer, Barry is once again choosing to stand for other people. Instead of retreating, Barry's launched a bold campaign to raise $2 million for Teen Cancer America, an organization dedicated to supporting adolescents and young adults navigating the difficult terrain of cancer treatment. This commitment is a testament to the power and purpose of the human spirit's capacity to give, even in the face of adversity. I'm really looking forward to talking about your journey and really having this conversation make a difference for others, from here forward. But Barry, first, welcome and thanks for being here.
Thank you. Also,
Um,
it's just to see the people on here. It's very moving.
yeah. For people that may be listening to this, we do this in front of a live audience. We have quite a few people that are in attendance today, and this is a departure from interviews that we've done. One is that Barry's a friend of mine and a colleague for many, 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 many years. And the other thing is that Barry is dealing with a very difficult diagnosis, and he reached out to me wanting to do this interview. And of course, it's very natural to agree to this. But the future that you have in front of you isn't the future that you had, you know, have 6 months ago. So I think what would be useful is just to start with what are the facts about your diagnosis and your prognosis and, what you've been dealing with until now.
Sure. So, about a month and a half ago, I was in the bathroom. I looked in the mirror and I was ugly yellow. I mean, jaundiced. And I'm like, whoa, that's weird. So I called my doctor, met with my doctor that Friday. They did some blood tests. The following Tuesday, I got a text, you need more blood tests. Uh, that Wednesday morning, I got a call at 7:30 from an acute nurse that said, you got to go to the emergency room right away. And I'm like, okay. So I go and they do an endoscopy, which is, down your throat. They put a duct in my bowel, a bile duct, a stent in my bile duct, and did a biopsy of my pancreas. And it came back as stage 3 pancreatic cancer. So that was a month and a half ago. Since then, I have met with 5 oncologists, 4 surgical oncologists, and Seamus, I may not go totally linearly because I got to stop every now and then and really acknowledge some people. So I have a really good set of friends, and a particular friend who is a researcher, and she has certain credentials within the university that I can't get into what she can get into. And she has really been a hero in searching out every, no matter what you send me or recommend I do, she's already thought of it and sent it to me.
Hmm.
So I'm talking around the world. So this has been a month and a half of just onslaught of information, this, like that. Now, with all that said, the oncologists and the surgical oncologists, what they offer is what they call a standard of care. Now, standard of care in pancreatic cancer is to do 4 to 6 months of really strong chemo that it's the strongest cocktail of chemo that they make. Then do what they call a Whipple surgery, which is take out your pancreas, your gallbladder, your spleen, part of your intestines, and then they replumb everything back, and then you do more chemo. And it's like, no, thank you. I'm not doing that. That's not happening. Why? Because I was committed to quality of life, not the standard of care. So I trusted myself that at some point, everything that my friend Cecilia said, you know, look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that. Everything that she said, and I researched, including talking to the oncologist and the surgical oncologist, I knew that at some point that little dial would just click in place. And last Sunday it did. And it was crystal clear the path of treatment I'm going. So everyone, as someone who had the privilege of leading the forum for 19 years, I uh, dealt with a lot of death. You know, people who had people that they loved had died and were not complete with that. And so over the years, including just work that I've done for myself, it's not an issue for me. So you die when you die. I'm crystal clear about that. And you're not going to die until you die. So I literally have zero fear of death, concern about death. So for me, it was what's the quality of life I'm going to have because, uh, you know, this may not kill me. Car wreck may kill me. You have no idea. I have no idea. So the the issue wasn't, oh wow, you know, I've got pancreatic cancer. The prognosis is 6 months to, you know, maybe after the Whipple surgery, you might go another 30 months. If you got a miracle, you might go 8 years, maybe, but sooner or later something. So for me, it was not that. It was like, okay, I'm not going to spend a year of my life with chemo because I watched other people debilitated by it, rearranging my insides and then more chemo and then no real guarantee of any prognosis. So it was like, okay, how am I going to deal with the best quality of life? So when I found out about Oasis of Hope, it's the procedures they do make complete sense to me because I grew up around hospitals. My mother was head of admitting for 2 hospitals. I was a certified lab technician at 17 years old. So when they say that we're going to do this and this and this and this, and it's a very stringent procedure, I'm like, makes total sense. And it's a completely nurturing environment. Everyone I've talked to that has gone there swears they would move in if they could. I mean, they're in tears when they're talking about it. They love it so much. So it's Christian based. Doesn't matter what any of you are or me, but their concern is caring for the patient like you'd care for yourself. And it is obvious from the first moment you talk to them. So they grow their own vegetables. It's, you know, a very healthy, super healthy diet. Uh, it's everything that would alter. I mean, I eat healthy, but not that healthy. Then the other course of action treatment that I've chosen is there's uh, uh, oncologist, a radiation oncologist, Dr. Chung out of Baptist Health in Miami, who in 2018 instituted what's called a MR-Linac radiation therapy machine. There are three of those machines in the US, one UCLA, one UVA, put in one last year, and then Dr. Chung uh, put theirs in at Baptist in 2018. So the procedure is that you go in for 5 consecutive days of very specialized radiation therapy. And so for me, the two fit. I mean, one's not conventional, one's conventional. So, but one is very, very, very sophisticated, and both are actually. So the way I see it is, I go down to Oasis of Hope, uh, take their treatment, intend the best out of that. The tumor may shrink, may not, come back. I'm already set up both with University of Virginia, and I'm set up with Baptist Health in Miami. I have appointments at both, so I'll choose which one I go to. And then whatever they recommend, then I'll look at that. But from everything that I've studied, read, watched, for me, that's the best path of treatment because it's the best quality of life. There's no after effects to the radiation, no pain to the radiation. I mean, have your treatment in 45 minutes and go skydiving. So all of it appeals to me. Now, fortunately, I was diagnosed a month and a half ago, and this past Monday, I had an abdominal MRI, and it showed that my tumor had not grown any and had not metastasized, which is really what they're worried about. And I'll tell you, for those of you, well, as a forum leader, I was accountable for well-being worldwide for the whole staff of Landmark. So I have a lot of distinctions around being well, and have been very, very well in my life. But I was just sitting there, I don't know, it was about a week and a half ago. And, a lot of people, uh, let me see, how I'm going to say this. Cancer's fearful. So people deal with it in certain ways. And, but for me, it literally hit me as like, wait a minute. My little pancreas has served me for 74 years. I have been all over the world. I've eaten stuff. I've drank, who knows what I've drank throughout my life. And my little pancreas has spit out enzymes and I mean, it has done the job for 74 years. So it totally shifted from, I've got this tumor and damn it, to, wait a minute, you're a good girl. You have taken care of me for 74 years. That altered everything. That shifted everything. And I know that because of people's prayers and their love and just that shift, that tumor hasn't grown, which is pretty amazing if you know anything about how aggressive pancreatic cancer is.
Well,
So,
I
yeah,
have a couple questions related to that. So, one is, you talk about quality of life versus length of life.
yeah,
Um, that's something that uh, you don't hear a lot. The approach to cancer. I'm gonna actually let's try one thing here, Barry. Let me turn
it
your
worked.
camera.
I got it now. Well, I had it. There it is. Okay.
There it is. Good. Um, you know, quality of life is something, from the perspective of a forum leader, you've been concerned for your entire career.
Right.
And uh, it's interesting to me that the first thing that, you talked about as you were talking about your, prognosis and the options for treatment is your concern for quality of life. And you also mentioned that, you've worked with a lot of people that have dealt with death. And I'm reminded of a quote. I don't know who I'm attributed to. My apologies, but um, a fear of death stems from a fear of life. And I just curious, that moment you got that prognosis, given your commitment in the world, what was that moment like for you?
It was, given that I have been extraordinarily healthy, and in October I had a major physical. I mean, everything they can do, and was pronounced boring. I was so healthy. So when I got the prognosis, it's like, what the hell? it's like incredible. It's like where did it come from?
Yeah.
So that was kind of like the response is like, okay, where did this come from?
Well, the other question I have is, this is a time where, you know, uh, all of us are touched by cancer in one way or another, whether it's, personally experiencing it like you are, having family members who deal with it. It's just ubiquitous. And, um, I think everybody asks themselves the question, if I got cancer, what would I do? And I think the first thing is, to deal with the treatment. Like, what am I going to do to deal with the cancer? But pretty quickly here, you've gone to something beyond your treatment. You've declared that you want to raise $2 million for Teen Cancer America. And, that's not a common thing to do. Nobody would blame you for wanting to spend time with whatever it is that you wanted. And yet, here you are playing a very big game, as we say around Landmark, for, something that, you didn't have a direct connection with prior to this.
I didn't. And well, I'll backtrack just a little bit, Seamus. So for 13 years, I led seminars, not the forum, seminars in Charlottesville, Virginia. So there was one forum that I was in the back of, and as the forum leader was leading, I'm like, well, all right, I'm in the forum. I might as well put something at stake, to produce a result. And I thought, well, work. Because as an entrepreneur, I mean, I could create a whole new development overnight. I mean, I just built up that kind of being known. So I was watching the forum leader, and about 20 minutes later, I started crying for no reason, which I probably will cry in a minute. But I had a thought, and the thought was because I had been committed to being a forum leader, but wasn't willing to give up what it took to be a forum leader. So I had this thought, am I going to die, see God, and say I didn't do this?
Hmm.
And the answer was no. When I die and I have to account for my life, I'm going to be able to say I took care of his creation.
Hmm.
And I walked out of that room, and 6 months later, I was a forum leader, which is unheard of. So that's why I led the forum.
Hmm.
And then Doug, I'm looking right at his little face right now. Doug Friedman introduced me to Teen Cancer America. And I thought, what's the weirdest time of my life? It's when I was an adolescent. I can still see that my picture on the face on the yearbook. My damn ears were too big, and my haircut was horrible. And my parents wouldn't let me do this, and I was like, it's a terrible time. Girls, what do you do? It's like weird. And then I thought, wait a minute, I can't imagine going through that and cancer
Hmm.
because most of the care is oriented around children or older people like myself. And if you're a child, you get over it. I mean, if you beat cancer, you get over it. you don't get over it as a teenager. It's harder. You're missing a year of your life. You Nobody knows how to talk to you because you're hormonal. So Teen Cancer America, they raise money for these centers within the hospital just for teens and young adults. And I thought, well, hell yeah. I mean, I could die tomorrow, but if some teen, I don't know, we'll never know, was taken care of, then that's worth my time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it's way more fun. It's way more fun having my attention on making that difference than it is on my frustration with the health system, which has been massively frustrating for a month and a half. But so right now it's like, okay, Claire and I are going down to Oasis of Hope. She's with me. She does the whole thing with me. We're in a room together. They teach her how to cook. My wife's a great cook, but they teach her how to cook differently. And she eats the same food and watches me go through the whole procedure. And then, so she's been just amazing. And she'll know everything. We won't be like, well, what happened? No, she'll be there with me through the whole thing for 20 days. So I love that. Um, you know, I mean, I could say so much about Teen Cancer America, but
Well,
I
we're
mean,
gonna we're gonna include a bunch of information
yeah, I'll tell
in the
people.
description of the podcast as
But,
people will be able to.
Seamus, the point is, if my life was going to be about contribution, this is just another expression.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I walk around my golf course here in the mornings and I get lost golf balls and I donated them to First Tee, which is a nonprofit that teaches kid ethics in golf. I've given them 8,000 golf balls, but that I get to exercise 3.5 miles in the morning and pick up really nice golf balls. But that's just a simple contribution, it's just but it's a contribution.
Yeah.
So it's not just I'm going to walk around. It's got a purpose to it.
Well, you said earlier that one of your roles was you were accountable for well-being within the Landmark Forum leader faculty.
Uh-huh.
And for people that may not be familiar, or particularly in the days before we had programs available online, there was a very, very demanding travel schedule for the people that led the Landmark Forum. And when you travel, if anybody does, that well-being is a very difficult thing to maintain with that kind of travel schedule. Um, but in addition to the practices that we're probably all familiar with about getting some exercise, sleeping well, eating right, etc., part of that had to do with who you're being. I'm wondering, if you could shed a little bit of light on how you supported Landmark Forum leaders in that role and how you're bringing that to bear as you're dealing with what you're dealing with right now.
Sure. So, a lot of things I could say, but I'll say one simple thing is you find out that if you deal with the facts without the story attached to the facts, things clear up faster. So I would have people only deal with the facts because the tendency is this thing makes up a story about everything and it worries about everything and it exacerbates everything. But if you're only dealing with, let's see, what do I have? Oh, I have a tumor the size of a golf ball. Okay, that's what I got. Okay. there are thousands of possible treatments out there. There's one standard of care and then thousands of treatments. Okay, that's a fact. Those are facts. Um, the fact is, I can't, if I eat fried foods, it, I get cramps like a heart attack. If I don't eat it, I'm like, I played 18 holes of golf today. But you find out that even no what matter what it is in life, if you can deal with the facts separate from the story, you get well faster, period. And that's been proven over and over and over and over and over and over for 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how I would support people because, like I said, you automatically get into that swirl and this takes over and the facts get lost because you're worried about everything else that might happen, could happen, you wish didn't happen.
And that would only be more heightened by a diagnosis like the one you've gotten.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's, if you read up on it, it's not cool.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I'm also the people I know that have gotten cancer, I maybe it's not this way for me now because I've lived long enough. I've known enough people who have cancer, but I do remember the first time I learned somebody close to me had cancer. I felt really awkward. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to ask. I didn't know how to support them.
Yeah.
And from your perspective now, where you are, for somebody who may have somebody in their life who's dealing with cancer, what would you offer to them and how to be and how to support their loved one?
Well, I'll say two things. So when I was diagnosed, I was talking to a colleague of mine, Randy McNamara's forum leader, and Randy said something very simple. He said, Barry, your job is to take care of everybody else. Because they don't know what to say, they don't know how to feel, they want the best for you. It's awkward. Uh, you know, they can't really do anything. They can pray and love you, but they can't fix your tumor. So it's really awkward. So really, when Randy said that, I just thought for myself, sure, that's my job, is take care of people. Like, accept their love, accept their prayers, accept you know, their recommendations of 10,000 things I should do. And if I tried this and thought about that, which is really can, after a month and a half, get annoying.
Yeah.
It's the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And pretty soon it's like, no, I'm just gonna wait till the tumblers click in and then I'm going with that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just arbitrarily. So, but it's awkward for people. I remember it was awkward for me when, people had different things. What do you say? How do you say it? How do you relate? So I would say, um, we have a lot of really good friends and they do it well. It's like, I love you and we're thinking about you and we're praying for you and anything we can do for you. Like we're going to the airport in the morning, which is an hour away. So we have two good friends, one of whom I played golf with today, and they're going to pick us up at 4 a.m.
Mm.
and drive us an hour to Wilmington. And, that generosity.
Yeah.
So I don't have any real words of wisdom because it's awkward. It's just weird.
Well, I think I hear in what you're saying is that, you know, be yourself.
Yeah, it's all you can,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah.
Um, you've just given what you've just shared about what you've talked about. I don't know to what degree this, is true for you, but um, suddenly dealing with this, potential horizon, on your time here, is there anything for you that is clearer? Is there anything for you that is more precious than other things?
No, it was already.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing that my daughter's getting married. I think she's on here. October 31st of this year. And I do have a promise to her to walk her down the aisle. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, um, that quality of life versus 6 months of chemo. 6 months of chemo, I couldn't have walked her down the aisle.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not why I went that way, but it was a contributing factor.
I want to go back to Teen Cancer America again and your
Yeah.
declared goal of raising $2 million, which is it's a big goal. It's a really, really big goal. And what and how can people support you in that?
First of all, I'm gonna say a little bit about what it is because no one has a clue what it is. But years ago, Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend of The Who, the band The Who, started a nonprofit in the UK for taking care of teens and young adults. And now it's here in the US and been in the US. And so they do a lot of fundraising, a lot of this and a lot of that. When I got involved with it, it was just like, okay, how can I support your vision? So they have a vision to make a difference with teens and young adults. And when I met Doug and he shared this with me, it was like that's a worthwhile, endeavor. While I'm going through this and after I go through this. So, there are many things they do right now. Uh, like there's a plan right now that's being coming together, will be implemented, where you get 1,500 marching band members from high school at a football stadium, let's just say the Mercedes Stadium in Atlanta, and they just come in and they're playing and being conducted by this famous, who knows, but as a fundraiser and to bring awareness to teen cancer. So it's all just to bring awareness, bring awareness, and then set up these centers in hospitals to facilitate taking care of them.
Hmm.
So I'm clear that I don't have the network to raise that kind of money. As a forum leader, prior to being a forum leader as an entrepreneur and a developer, you know a lot of people. But when you're a forum leader, you're traveling all around the world. So you're almost like a ghost. My wife, we have good friends that took my wife everywhere because I wasn't around to take her everywhere. So you're not around. So you have connections, but what's going to make the difference in this to have it happen is other people saying, I support that, and having their social network be aware of it to support it. That's how things really take off. It's definitely not me. It's you sharing it with your social network and saying, you know what, my good friend Barry Terry, blah blah blah, and Team Cat, and I remember I was weird as an adolescent too. I can't imagine having cancer, and that's how it's going to happen. Without that, it won't happen. Because, like I said, it's a pretty good chunk of money. All of it goes to Teen Cancer America, 100%. But that's how it happened.
And if there was, because I'm sure there's many people listening, people here live that want to participate in this. Um, if you were to offer an elevator pitch for somebody who wants to support you in this, what would you propose?
I would propose that people get personally connected like I did. See, I had to really think about my picture in that face in the yearbook. And I had to think about how weird it was for me. And
Mm.
then now that I have cancer as a more mature adult, I can't imagine having cancer as a teen. I literally cannot imagine that. So, I mean, a lot of them come out, Seamus, and they commit suicide. They become alcoholics. They become drug addicts. They don't know
Mm.
how to handle it.
Mm.
And now you think about that social media added to that. Now they're not a part of that for a year or whatever and whatever. You are behind, way behind. So if someone could get personally connected, they wouldn't have to have an elevator pitch. It would be, I can't imagine having it myself.
Yeah.
So then there are people literally on this Zoom that could go to their corporations and have a substantial amount of money contributed because corporations do that. But that'll only happen if they're willing to go to their organizations and their corporations and say, you know, this is what I've gotten connected to, and I really think it could make a real profound difference.
Mm.
So you gotta get connected like I got connected.
Great.
Yeah. There's no spiel about it.
Well, and just directly related to that, what can people listening do uh, to take action on that connection? Just literally, there's a landing page that you've created, correct?
Yes. Well, they could go to that site, open it up, donate, but more importantly, share that with others. But see, it's
Right.
not just share, like, oh, I'm going to repost your post. That's useless. That's just another thing on Facebook. It's got to have a personal something like my daughter put on there,
Yeah.
about her dad's life's been about contribution. So that's personal to my daughter, Ashley.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't have that, it doesn't mean anything. It's just another post. So if people are inclined, and I don't expect them to, but if they are inclined, it has to be, you have to have a personal connection. And it's, like I said, it's very simple. Think about your adolescence and imagine you have cancer.
Yeah.
You can't advocate for yourself as a teen. See, I can advocate for myself and have.
Yeah.
You cannot
You hardly even know what's actually going on with you when you're a
Oh,
teen.
totally. It's brutal. So that's when I really got the legitimacy of it and the difference it can make was just looking at my own life.
Yeah. Well, we're going to include all that information in the uh, everything people need in the podcast description. Um, Barry, before we wrap up, um, just there's a question that we ask people at the end of this, which is a little more poignant asking you. But we always ask people at the end, 100 years from now, none of us are going to be here.
Right.
Anybody's old enough to be listening to this 100 years from now, none of us will be here. What do you want people to say about you when you're no longer here?
He made a difference.
That's pretty indisputable. Um, and given who you are, there's many people around the landmark community in particular that know you. You may not know them, but you've made a difference for them. And um, they just want to know about you and how you're doing. And as you go through this, regardless of how it all turns out, what do you want to say to them?
Um, well, I'm doing really well, actually.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, their body's going to die. They're not escaping that. I'm not going to escape that. So it's what's the quality of life until that little trigger gets pulled. And a really good friend of mine shared with me that she was with a gentleman, I think it was a week ago, at a pretty elaborate event, and she just found out he got killed in a car wreck this week. He has three children. Now he's dead. I'm not dead, but that time came. So you don't know. I don't know. So it was like today playing golf with my buddies and my son. It's like, I don't care if that's a bad shot. I'm not a good golfer anyway. I mean, I'm fairly decent, but it was more important to be with them because it's the last day I get to play for 20 days and maybe ever.
yeah,
So that's what was important.
yeah. There's somebody on here who just recently lost their sister
Mm,
after a long battle with cancer. And, um, when I asked you the question about, you know, what would you say to people that, or have somebody in their life who's going through this, and they added, uh, be there for that person.
yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what you can do. I mean,
And I think it,
I had a good friend and he said, well, what can I do? What can I do? I said, well, you make the best salmon I have ever, you grill out the best salmon I've ever had. So Friday night, you could cook me dinner. So he was
mm,
there for me. But that's important because your pancreas only likes certain foods when you're in this situation. And salmon is one of them. So that was very nurturing. Just
mm,
that.
yeah.
So they are being there for them in whatever way makes a difference. Yeah, it's great. Great point.
The other thing I'm struck by with this is when somebody in your life is going through a serious illness, or a community is dealing with somebody who's going through a serious illness, it's a little bit like a fire alarm goes off, and people's kind of, it triggers a lot of patterns for people,
Yeah,
and the overwhelming advice on what you should do to, um, people fussing, and in the landmark community, one of the things that people really get trained in is being present,
right,
being with someone
right.
and listening.
Yeah,
And the thing I hear is that in that listening, if there is something to do, it shows up. If you're
yeah,
just being
yeah,
present and listening.
yeah. Yes.
Well, Barry, I thank you for navigating the technical difficulties that we had today. I thank you for um, having this phase in your life just be an extension of what your life has always been about. It
Yeah.
really is it's a privilege to call you a friend. It's a privilege to work with you for all these years. And it's a privilege to be with you as you go through this, the way that you're going through it. And I really thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, I've named this little booger. It's called The Great Adventure.
Hmm.
So there you go.
Oh, that's a great way to finish. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thank you,
All right,
Seamus.
everyone. Thank you. I love you, brother.
Love you. Peace out.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Landmark Difference Makers. If you're inspired by what you heard and you want to learn more about Landmark's programs or explore upcoming episodes, visit landmarkforumnews.com to find resources, event details, and more stories of people making extraordinary impact around the globe. If you are already a part of the Landmark community, check out the Landmark subscription, designed to provide ongoing support in creating a life you love. Visit landmarkworldwide.com to learn more. Until next time, keep creating, keep contributing, and keep making a difference.